Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Um, Today's video, I am going to teach you how to configure remote access into your router and your switches. So specifically, I'm going to configure Telnet and I'm also going to configure SSH, Telnet and SSH. So if you don't know how to configure these things on Cisco devices, you are definitely on the right place. Remember, these are used for remote access into your routers and your switches. In case you don't you don't have a physical connection to the device, like a console cable to connect to the console port and connect to the device, the best way to access the device and perform configurations is to do what? SSH or Telnet. But Telnet is not secure. SSH is the secured version. So today I'll teach you how to configure both. Let's begin. So I'll begin by going into what? Router 1. Okay. So router 1, config CLI and enable, then configure terminal. Okay. So I'll begin by putting some kind of security on the ports, like such as passwords, and perform some basic configuration. So for example, let's go into the console port first. So line con 0 or line console 0. So this will take you into the console port. Then from there, you assign what? A password, because you don't want anybody just even connecting the cable to your port and just having access to your device. You want them to perform some kind of authentication before it begins. Okay, so then we go ahead and type the password. Just write password and the name of the password. In this case, I'll just call it password 1. So this is the password. So I have just assigned the password into the what? Into the console port. Now, once we type the password, the next command we have to add is what? Login. So this time, if somebody connect a cable onto the console port, it's going to ask them for a password before they can what? Proceed. So that is done. Now, there's another line that we can what? Perform configuration on, which is what? Line aux, the aux port. Line aux, AUX 0. And we can perform the same thing, put password on it. Let's say password, and then what? Password 1. Press enter. Login. So next thing we're going to do is what? The VTY lines. That's virtual lines. Okay? Virtual lines. So now it's time for us to go to what? The virtual lines. Now, let's go into the virtual lines. To go into the virtual lines, you type what? Line VTY. Line VTY. It begins from 0 through 14. So I'm going to configure the first 4. Okay, so 0, 4, 0 through 4. Then from there, I put in what? A password. So the password for the virtual lines is going to be password 1. This is the password for the virtual lines. And you type what? Login. Easy as that. So just identify the ports you want to go into. If it is a console port, line console 0, line aux 0, virtual lines 0 through 5, and then put the password, and then what? You log in. This is how you configure the port. So at this moment, we've configured the virtual lines. Okay, from 0 through 5. So that means Telnet can be what? Can be used for these devices. So I'm going to go to the PC. Now, how do you test Telnet? Go to the PC, PCA in this case, and go to what? Desktop. and use command prompt, because in the real life it's going to be between what? The router and your computer. Okay, you tell nothing from your router to the computer if they are all on the same what? Network. Okay, so we're going to say, let's ping first. So ping, the IP address for router 1 is 192.168.1.1 and press enter. So you see the ping is working. So now we can try to telnet into it using that. So we type telnet. That's how you do it. Telnet and 192.168.1.1 and press enter. So it's asking for password. The password that I put in to connect to it. PASSWORD1. And you see, I'm in router 1 from what? Your PC. So this is how you do it. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is configure Telnet on router 3. So that from PCA I can try to connect to what? Router 3. So go to router 3, go to CLI, press enter, enable configure terminal. Okay, then again configure the console port. So line call console 0, password equals password 1. Okay, login, easy. Line ops 0, password is equals to password 1. Okay, then login. Then the next thing I'm going to do is configure the virtual lines for Telnet and for what? SSH. So line BTY, then what? 0 space 4. That means 0 through 4. Okay, enter. Then what's the password? Password equals password 1, and then login. Easy, right? Easy. And then from PCA, let's try to exit. Let's try to connect from PCA to router 3. So before you configure Telnet, SSH, or any other configuration, always make sure your network is already set up and is working and running correctly before you proceed. Okay, so now the fact that let's ping PC like a router 3 first to see from PCA can we go to router 3. So we're going to go and so PCA, from PCA here we want to go all the way to what? Router 3. Let's ping it. So we type ping 192.168.3.1. See, it's pinging. So let me put this thing here so that it's important that you know the addresses. So 192.168.1.1, and this one is 192.168.3.1. The PC is 192.168.1.3. This one is 192.168.3.3. Easy. All right. So now the ping is working. So now let's telnet into the router. So we're going to write telnet just like that. Then what? 192.168.3.1. Press enter. Let's ask for the password that we put on the line. So PASSWORD1. And we are in router 3. So this is the essence of Telnet or SSH. So that from your PC, instead of having to go click or connect a cable to them, you can just what? Use your PC and then log onto them and perform your configuration. So I can begin performing configuration on router 3. So you see enable. Okay, so because I have not set up a password for enable, it won't allow me to proceed from there. So what I need to do now is go into router 1 and type in what? Enable password. Then what? Password 1. Do the same thing for what? Router 3. So type enable exit, enable password, and then what? Password 1. So show running exit first. Exit, then show running configuration. Show run. Now you see, this is why it is not good to always use what? Password. Because if you were to pull your running configuration, you will find that you have what? The password showing. So this is why it's not good. So it's always good to use what? Secret. Secret will what? Encrypt the password instead of what? Just password. Always use what? Secret. Secret is for encrypting the password. So now from PCA, let's go to PCA and we should be able to proceed. So exit first. No, just type enable. I see us asking for password. We put in the password. And then we are in, so we can do any other configuration that we want. So as you can see, this is how you configure what? Telnet. Okay, to configure Telnet, just log into what? Line VTY 0 through whatever number you want. So for example, we can see the maximum number. So let's go to router 3 and say line configure terminal and then we type line VTY and type 0 and press question mark, space question mark. It tells you the last number. So 0 through what? 14. The last line number is what? 14. So 0 through 14, that is 15. It's the same as 1 through 15. Okay. So these are the number of virtual lines that we have. So we can protect these virtual lines by putting password on them. Okay. So this is it for Telnet. Now let's go into what? SSH. Now, importantly to mention, remember Telnet and SSH, they both do the same thing. However, Telnet is not secured. So these days, SSH is gradually replacing what? Telnet. And also note that for SSH to work, you need what? Your router should be able to support the local authentication, which can be your username or password, or it could be what? An AAA, like a accounting authentication authorization what? Service. Or you could also use what? A password authentication. Okay. So let's first of all, I'm going to create what? Some username and password that we're going to use for that SSH what? Verification. So let's do that. So to create the username, it's straightforward. Just type what? Go to your configuration mode and type what? User name. Okay. Type the name of the user. In this case, I'm going to put maybe CCIP. This is the username. Okay. And my what? Password. It could be in the form of what? Encrypted, or it could be what? It could just be just a regular like password. So, but at this case, I want it to be what? Encrypted. I'll use what? Secret. Okay. So secret and the password PASSWORD 1. I don't want the password to show. I want it to be what? Encrypted. So I'm going to create what? A username and a password. That is what I'm going to use to configure the what? SSH. So I want that when somebody is connecting to the router, they are using what? A login, username, and what? A password, instead of just using what? A password. Okay. All right. So another thing that we need to do is we need to configure what? Our domain name. Okay. We need to configure what? Our domain name. So to configure domain name is you just have what? IP domain name. IP domain name. And in this case, I can just call it maybe my ccip.com. Okay. So once that is created, now we're going to go into what? The lines. Let's go into what? The lines. So to go into the lines is what? Line VTY. Then from 0 to what? 14, that's 15 lines, or whichever many you want to configure. Okay. We want to replace the telnet lines with what? SSH. So that means it's going to be 0 through 4. So 0 space 4 and enter. Then we're going to say login local. That means that it should use the login credential that we created, the local login credentials we get, which is the CCIP and the password. Okay, so login local and press enter. We also have to transport the input, transfer the input from the telnet to what? The SSH. So in this case, it's going to be transport. You type the transport command input SSH and exit. Okay, and exit. So now on router 3, we can what? Connect to SSH. Okay, we can now use what? SSH on router 3. Okay, so now let's test that. So before we proceed with the testing, I just realized that we missed a step, which is to generate what? The RSA. RSAs are used for what? Authentication purposes. Okay, and the RSA also depend on the domain. Remember when we set up the domain, like IP domain myccip.com? So when we set up the IP domain, this is necessary for us to generate what? RSA keys. So now let's generate the RSA keys. So to generate the RSA, we write what? Crypto. Sorry, this is supposed to go into the router. So let's go into the router 3 and enter. Let's go. So configure terminal. So we're going to generate what? RSA keys. This is necessary for us to use what? Telnet. I'm sorry, SSH. Okay. So to do that, we just type a crypto key generate, and then the what? You type RSA. Then the module number, modulus. The key number is 1024. It could also be what? 2048. All of those bits. And press enter. Sorry. RSA. Yeah. 1024. Crypto key generate RSA. That's all you have to do. 1024. Okay, then press enter. You could have also used the default, which is what? 512. But usually we just like to go a step higher, because the higher the better. Okay. Um, so in this case, we've generated what? Our RSA keys. The RSA keys are used for what? The authentication purpose. Are public keys that are used for what? Authentication of um, the SSH configuration, SSH login. All right. So now we can say that we have successfully completed the configuration of SSH. It's now time for us to what? Test it. Okay. It's time for us to what? To test the SSH to see how it works. So again, I'm going to go into PCA and type what? SSH. Now -L and then type what? The username that you want to use to connect to this to the router, and then the IP address of the router. In this case, this one, 192.168.3.1, and press enter. It's going to ask you for the password for the what? For that you configured. In this case, actually, we did the wrong thing because we didn't create an admin user. So let's see in the router what kind of usernames do we have. So let's show run. Running configuration will tell us the username that we have created. In this case, you see we have what? CCIP. This is the username we created, and the password we created was secret. It encrypted it. That's why it's like this. So what I'm going to do is from here, I am going to go in again, SSH -1-L, then admin, then the address of the router you want to go into. The password here is PSSWRD1. Sorry, password is PSSWRD1. I think I use the same password. Oh, because the username is wrong. So that is why. So I don't have any username called admin. So this is the issue. So I need to type in the correct username that I created, CCIP, and type the password that I created. And you see it logged in. So enable will also give you ask you for password. So this way you see you are more secure. Show run, and you can create more users. So for example, if I want to add another user, so I can say configure terminal, and then type in what? Username. That's all you have to do. Username, the name of the user, in this case admin, and then password. Password does not encrypt, but if you want it to be encrypted, you type what? Secret. Okay, and then the password. So exit. So let's now log in with that username. So exit. So okay, we exited. So now let's log in with the admin account. So admin, and we are in. Enable. See, now show users. You see, it tells you which is connected. In this case, the admin is connected. Okay, so when the user is connected, it tells you which user is connected. So this is how we set up what? SSH and Telnet. Okay, so there are other configurations that we can do, but because of time, I will not be able to cover that in this particular video. But know that you can always set up a timeout, like how many seconds it have to do before it was of no activity before you can exit out of the SSH, or you can close out. You can do that. And also for authentication purposes, like how many times do you want to give the person to try the password and the username, you can set up that as well. That's what called authentication retries, so that can be configured as well. So again, for a reminder of how to configure SSH, remember you have to what? First configure a domain name. Okay, and to do that, start IP domain, then the IP domain name, the name of the domain, then followed by what? The username and the password. Remember, you can actually use the password to get into the computer, login or login local. The local means that you create a local user which you are going to use to what? To log on to the SSH. Then you follow that by what? By a crypto key. Remember, the crypto key, the key pair generation is used for authentication and encryption of the data that you are going to what? Transmit on the over the SSH. So that is the purpose for that. And then finally, you have to what? Transport the SSH input. You need to do a transport configuration, transport SSH. Okay. You can actually do transport SSH, comma, and Telnet. That is if you want to use both. But remember, Telnet is not secure and it's not the best option to use for configuring, for remote login. Um, for your quiz, I'm going to send a message on my platform asking you what is the port number for SSH and what is the port number for Telnet. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to give a thumb up to this video. It helps with the channel. Thank you so much and I appreciate you. Bye bye.